So the Lone Ranger and Tonto were riding in the middle of winter over the plains of America, and Tonto looked at the Lone Ranger and said, "I'm beginning to get cold. I think we've got to stop for the night." So they found the next nearest town, a small town called Dead Man's Gulch, and the two of them rode into town. And as they rode up and down the main street in Dead Man's Gulch, they saw there was a brightly lit saloon that offered hotel rooms. So they tied their horses up outside the saloon, and as they're about to go in, Tonto said, "We can't stay here," to the Lone Ranger, and the Lone Ranger said, "Well, why not?" And he said, "There's a sign on the door that says Native Americans aren't welcome in Dead Man's Gulch." And the Lone Ranger says, "Well, there's very little point as both standing out in the cold and freezing, so I'm going to go in and get myself a room, and you'll just have to stay here and stay with the horses." And Tonto says, "But I'm going to freeze, I'm cold already." The Lone Ranger says, "Well, I have a travelling blanket on my trusty steed. Wrap the travelling blanket around yourself, you'll be absolutely fine." So he gets the travelling blanket off Silver, the horse, and wraps it around the shoulders of his close companion Tonto. And he's about to turn around and go back in the bar, and Tonto says, "But I'm still cold. You know, I'm going to freeze if you leave me here." And the Lone Ranger says, "Well, I'm sorry, there's not much more I can do. You could just try jogging on the spot or something to stay warm. That normally works for me." So Tonto says, "Oh, very well." He starts jogging on the spot with the Lone Ranger's thick blanket wrapped around his shoulders. He keeps an eye on the horses while Lone Ranger goes into the bar and orders himself a shot of whiskey and a rum for the night. And the Lone Ranger finishes his whiskey and then orders another one and another one and another one. And 3 hours later, the Lone Ranger's absolutely pissed as a fart, swaying at the bar. Suddenly a cowboy bursts into the bar and says, "Whose is that white horse tied up outside this saloon?" And the Lone Ranger turns around with his hand on his gun, and he says to the guy, "That would be my horse, what's the problem?" And the cowboy says, "You left your engine running."